We're live. Excellent. How's it going, everyone? We're back here streaming, building out the attendee list and shipping it today for Laracon US. And then pretty quickly after, I might put up a page for Laracon AU, for which I'll be going to and speaking at. So what we're going to do today is we're going to add the ability for attendees to add themselves to the map and the list on the Laracon US page. And then, and then we'll get the globe up the top updated with that new attendee. A new connection will appear on the globe. But then we'll also add that attendee to a list, like an ordered list of attendees down the bottom. I want to style up the list of attendees and give ideally we'll build out a profile photo upload as well, so you can add a photo of yourself. We'll add a link, so each attendee can have just a single link where you can go and view other information about them. This won't be tied to the main Laramates profile that we have for each user. This is completely separate. I think I'm not even going to add an email address. I just really want to make this as easy as possible for people to get in and get themselves added to the list. If they then the look and feel of Laramates and they're actually interested in making a profile, then they can go and just register themselves elsewhere. But specifically for these events, we don't have to tie it to their profile. Cool, so let me show you where we left off. So if I bring up, I've got the code here, I might actually jump to the browser. So this is where we left off last time. I don't think I've made any changes to this since. So what we got working was we seeded a bunch of fake attendees into the database, and we have all of these connection points going to Dallas. And the idea, if it wasn't clear, the idea for this is so that we can plot all of the different attendees to a given Laracon on the map and see, okay, how far are people coming from? So maybe later we could add actually determine how long that person might have traveled to get there, or how far that distance is, things like that. But for now, we're just going to show it on a map. And to do that, we're just one of the required bits of information that we will need to capture when we're adding attendees is their city. Where are they coming from? So we have a database of I think there's roughly 5,000 cities which are over 100k population all across the world. So we're just asking people to select what's the nearest city to you. We've got a search bar, and then they'll select that. They'll provide their name, optionally a profile photo, but it will be recommended so that way people can recognize you, and a single link, and then that will be enough for us to plot them in on the map. So yeah, so this map, again, these are just fake attendees here, but yeah, you'll be able to go in. The idea will be that you can click on each of these cities here on the map, and then that will scroll you down and filter the list below to just people in those cities. And then this is that list, and you can see it's unstyled, and then we get down to the footer there. So the plan to be able to add yourself as an attendee is that there'll be a button over here somewhere, probably. You'll click that, it'll pop up with a modal. We'll just ask for those key bits of info, hit submit, send it off. That's it. So we might start by styling out this list of attendees here, and then we can get the last piece of the puzzle working, which is that add yourself as an attendee. So I might hop back into PHP Storm. Cool. So let me pop open the chat. If you're here, feel free to write a message through. Okay, so let's get into the styling. I can't control click that. So let's do this. So we go down to our pages, events, show. This is an Inertia JS app. We've got a bit of a different like project layout, which I walked through on the previous 2 live streams. So you can check out the YouTube channel if you want to go play those back. Cool. So we've got our view code here, and this is rendering out our list of attendees right here. And then this is what that looks like. So why don't I bring that over to the left? I can minimize everything else now. And let's just see if we can get the attendee city to appear in here as well. And then we might also sort our list of attendees based on maybe on their last name or something like that. So let's get that working. So what we will need to do is load the attendees city. And now for each of these attendees, we should have access to their city. So if I go city dot name, do we then get access to this? And we do. Cool. So these are, maybe I can make that a little clearer. Yeah, there we go. Cool. So you can see it's filled that in. So we've got like the key bits of information that we need. Likely we'll also want to show the country. So on a city, on our city model, we actually have this attribute here, name with country. We have name with state and country, and we are using that. Where are we using that? Here. So this city, Ikiti, is in the state or territory of Ikiti in Nigeria. Apologies if that's not the right pronunciation. But then for lists, we're just plotting down that, okay, they're in the city and then in this country, and that will help weed out if there are multiple countries with the same city name. So yeah, so this might be the attribute that we use. So if we go name with country, there we go. Scroll down, perfect. You can see now we've got our list here. Some of the other information that we might want to have would be, I think it was called URL. Yep, there we go, cool. So we can see we've got the URL there. And what else did we have on our attendees? Go away. So if I hop back to DataGrip, this is our database for the project. So we've got first name, last name, what type of attendee they are, whether they're an attendee or a speaker, and we're going to do some different treatment with those, and then just the URL. So why don't we also plot out the type here? So let's go type, and now bring up Chrome, and you can see that difference there. Cool. So obviously this is a bit ugly. So let's get this working a bit nicer. So what we might do, we want to make the whole link clickable. We want to make the whole thing a link. But I'd also like it to be this in this unordered list HTML here. So what we might do is a little bit of styling on the fly. So firstly, let's set this up with a background white. If we make that block, is this reloading? It is. Okay, that probably doesn't come through very well on the stream. There we go. Cool. So now let's space these out a bit. If I do that, doesn't work. I can never quite figure out why some things will work with gap and others will work with space Y. I'm not sure. That's okay. So we'll go, let's add a bit of space between this word attendees and then the start of our first actual attendee here, and maybe something like this. That looks kind of nice. We're kind of giving everything like this really big treatment. It's a big event, and we want to give everything enough space. And also I'm on for streaming, I'm on a 1080p screen, so it kind of brings everything in if I was to view this on my normal resolution, it would you'd have a bit more room there. Cool. So why don't we expand these out a little? That looks good. Let's add some padding here. We're going to make these rounded. Let's just have a play. So now, why don't we lower that down? Yep, that's starting to look a bit more like what I was thinking. And then we will make these relative, because what we're going to do is have a link, an anchor tag here, which will take you to attendee.url. Target will be blank, I think, and we'll come back to like dealing with SEO and all the the rules around what you're meant to put like no referrer on and all that sort of stuff. We'll come back to that later. So we want to make this class. We want to inset, we want to go absolute and inset this to 0. So now, if I reload that, I would have expected this to take up all of that area. Yeah, here we go. So you can see my cursor changes here if I hover over an attendee that has a link, and that's gone all the way to the edges of this box here. So that's awesome. And then I actually can notice that it's also like if I hover over, I know it's hard to see, I'm sorry, but if I hover all the way over to the corners of this box, which are rounded, I can still click on that link, which I shouldn't be able to do. So we should be able to get rid of that if we go overflow hidden. And now, nope, that hasn't done it. So I wonder, is that just a cached thing? Yeah, yep, there we go. So I'm now hovered inside of that corner section there, and it's it has worked. So I can no longer click on the link from the corner there. I think it's kind of hard to see. Okay, not a big deal anyway. Okay, so let's see. So now we can get rid of the link here because I don't need to display that. Why don't we get a URL in for our, why don't we get an image in for the avatar of that user? So let's get that happening. So I'm going to make this, if I think about like what I want the layout of this page to be, I would think we should have like the image of the user over here, then maybe their name in like bold, the city that they're coming from underneath that in a bit smaller, and then whether they're an attendee or speaker over here. That's what I'm initially going for. So to achieve that, we can probably set this whole list item up as a flex row, and then we'll just kind of figure out how all the different parts should come in. So we want to go item center. They can justify start. That's fine. I think those might be the defaults. Let's add a gap of 2 for now and just see like how does this look. So because this is absolute, it should get ignored as far as flex goes. And again, to make life a bit easier, I know this now looks a bit ugly, but I just want to make that a bit easier to see on the stream. So let's get this working. So we should be able to just go source. For now, I'm just going to even hard code this to just point to, do I have my picture? I do. Cool. Let's grab this. Everyone's going to look like me. So copy, I'm going to open that in a new tab. Cool. So class will equal something, H8W8 rounded full. Let's just leave it at that for now. And then we will have a div, and this will just be a normal div, but we'll go space Y1. So this doesn't have to be flex. Let's make this a span. Tell you what, let's make these paragraphs. I don't know that it matters, but we'll see. So we're going to drop that in here, and then we're going to have some type of div for the attendee type. There we go. Okay, so something like this. Perfect. So obviously this isn't quite right, but you're getting the idea. So if we make that flex 1, what I'm wanting to do is have each of these sections. It's really hard to type. I got to figure this out. It's hard to type with this microphone sitting here, so hopefully that's okay. So what I want to do is add flex shrink 0 to each of these. Perfect. And now you see, okay, we're going to have this avatar all the way on the left, and we might increase the size of that. We're going to have to speak the attendee type all the way on the right, which as I think about it, maybe we want to change that, but that's okay. And then the attendee name and where they're coming from over here. And then again, hovering over these are links. And I can see, for anyone clued in, I can see that our URLs need to be absolute, which at the moment they're not, which is why we're getting that weird URL with example.com at the end of it in the little address bar down the bottom here. All right, so let's adjust our thinking here. We probably don't need to see the word attendee on 95% of attendees, right? So because there's 18 speakers, something like that. We can just highlight these people as, hey, these are the speakers. And then everyone else, we don't need to see the word attendee on. So why don't we do that over here and go if attendee.type speaker, then we're going to display that. Cool. So this will kind of give us an idea of how we might be able to highlight those speakers. All right. Cool. And then it's not actually going to be possible for people to register themselves as a speaker. We'll just sort of build that in, that you can put yourself in as an attendee, but speakers will come from the back end. So I'll just manually go in and add speakers for any events that are in there right now. And we talked a bit about that on some of the other streams. Cool. Okay, so if I expand this all the way out now, this is huge. So, and we don't need it to be. We're not asking people for a blurb or anything like that about themselves at the moment. So why don't we make this list into a grid instead? And now I can get rid of this and go grid cols to gap 4. There we go. That's looking a bit better. Cool. So I think we could get away with adding some shadow to these. Now, you can't really see because we're on black. You can't see it. So maybe we don't need shadow. Or is that because these are... No. I thought maybe it was because they were list items, but doesn't seem to matter. So that's okay. So I'm going to get rid of the shadow. And what we'll do is on hover, we're going to scale these up, and you can see it's already suggesting this scale 105 thing. So we're kind of using this treatment elsewhere, which you can see here. I quite like how it looks, and we might as well stay like on brand for this Laramates. So let's just go find how I did that elsewhere. So if I even just search for hover scale 105, and we just see profile summary there. So this is how I've done it. So we've got on large screens, we're going to do group hover scale 105. And then we're applying this transition and duration 300. So that's why like this is just immediately jumping, but on the other page, it went a little smoother. So if I apply that now, there we go. You can see that this now gives us this nice like scaling thing. So we'll deal with responsive design and different breakpoints, stuff like that soon. But for now, let's just like stay focused on some of the more important stuff. So, okay, so if I bring everybody back now, you see that was really nice. Isn't that cool? Because we've got the transition and the duration classes here. We get this nice, like, it figures out the opacity has changed. Super cool. So some other things that I can think that we need to address is like we shouldn't be rendering this anchor tag if there's no URL for that given attendee. So let's only show this if there is an attendee URL. So now if we go inspect this one, I know it's a little hard to see, but there's no link. There's no anchor tag anywhere for this item, which we know doesn't have one, but these ones still do. Cool. I can see that this looks a bit gross with how far over it comes, like kind of encroaches on the next person. So I think like you may have seen over here, we had this scale to 102%. So I might actually just try using that. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now you can see we get, it still grows a little, but it's not anything crazy. Cool. All right, so next let's increase the size of these images. Yep, so that looks a little better to me. I quite like over here on the live website, you see that, like when I click on it, I get this border around it. Maybe we could try adding a border around each of these images just to see what it's like. I don't know yet if we'll want to keep it or not, but maybe. Cool, so let's go find that. That will probably be in a view component called navbar. Let's see how well I know my own project. So that will be, yes, this one here. There it is there. Cool. So when we focus on that element, like we are now, we get the ring 2, ring white, and the ring offset 2. I don't actually know what that's doing. Maybe that's like filling in that gap. Yep, I can see. Again, probably doesn't come through on the stream, but like stars just went underneath here, these little stars in the background, and I can't see them behind here, so that must be what this ring offset is providing us. So why don't we just grab all of these and we'll put them onto the image here. And then now I can't actually focus on this image because it's not like an interactable element. So what I need to do is just get rid of all of these prefixes. Okay, and now we get this. So now it's on us to figure out, like, do we like this or not? I think with a bit more spacing between these elements, it's a bit more palatable. And now maybe because we made these bigger, we can shrink the image size down. So yeah, I don't mind this. I'm not sold 100% on it yet, but we might be able to get away with that. Let's try just moving on to styling these other two areas, and then we'll figure out like what sort of badge or treatment we're going to do for speakers. And then maybe we can come back to these if I'm still like a bit on the fence about it. Okay, so let's get these styled up. So we want to have these tags. So let's make the name be in bold here. Let's just see what that does, or semi-bold. So that looks okay. I generally like bringing any like text content down onto a new line, so I'll just do that. Let's make the city small. Yes, already this is looking much better. Let's blow that up. This is looking pretty good. I almost think now there's like too much of a gap between the name and the city. So maybe this isn't the move. Do we even need space there? Doesn't look like we do. Like that to me, this looks pretty good. So why don't we just leave that? Cool. So this is looking pretty good. So why don't we get the speaker treatment here working, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so if I'm a speaker, I want to display this kind of like this style, I think, where we'll just show like a little badge. So it won't be a button, but it will be kind of like this. So why don't we just take that as our basis? There we go. Okay, cool. So let's shrink it down a little. It's quite large. We don't need it to be. So why don't we just try like that? Yep, that's looking good. So since we know that they are a speaker, and I actually want to no, tell you what. Yeah, this looks okay. I think we can get rid of all of this since it's not a button. Get rid of all of that. And now what if we made this uppercase? But then we use those like, it's not letting, it is tracking. Tracking wider, let's say. Okay. So the setup that I did for this has a lot of speakers in it. The seating data that I did has a lot of speakers, so that's why we're getting all of them like this. I'm not sold on this just yet, but I don't want to get held up on it. So let's just leave that. Maybe again we can come back to it. But it's looking good so far. So I think the only other thing that we might want to do for very small screens like phones, if I bring this over here, this looks all kind of messed up. Why does that look so bad? I see. Yeah, because of this. So we only want there to be two. No, this doesn't look right. We only want there to be two grid columns if there we go. I was in that zoomed in mode that sometimes you get if you like on the mouse, you double click in. So there we go. So that looks an awful lot better now. Is my, yeah, that URL is no longer working because it must be a signed URL. So let's get that back. Yep. There we go. Cool. Now we're back. All right. So this scrolls on for a long time, but I think we're ready to move on. We can try and figure out like, okay, are there any weirdness with very long names if they interrupt like the speaker banner and stuff like that. But you can see like this is a fairly nice little design that we've come up with. So, cool. All right, so why don't we move on and go away. Let's sort this list like we said we were going to do. So now I can definitely get rid of all of this. We're not using any of that anymore. To sort this list, we will just modify our load here that we're doing. This loads all of the relationships in an eager manner. We can type in this. It is a has many relationship. Now, actually did a little test run of this before I got on this call, this stream, and I always use like builder, the eloquent builder there. I type in builder and then it tells me like, okay, you should use has many. So I didn't just know that it was has many off the top of my head. It's only because I cheated a little. So we're going to go return query, order by last name, and then order by first name. Yep, and the ID has got it. So now if I sort this, here we go. Cool. You can see our names are sorted based on surname first and then first name. So this is perfect. So what we will then do, I don't know if this happens like automatically, but I'd love for this list to be like deterministic and always sorted. Should always include that like by ID to make sure that if two people have the same name, which could happen with a mix of 1,000 attendees, that they're sorted based on the ID. Cool, so that's done. What else shall we do? So I would like to put all of the speakers at the top. So to do that, we can just go order by descending type. We know that for our type, perfect, our type field on attendees is going to be from this enum attendee type, which is, it has attendee and speaker in it. Those are the only two values that we're going to have. So we don't have to get clever and do anything fancy. We can just go order by descending since speaker comes after attendee, you know, alphabetically. So now this should put all of our speakers at the top. And it does. And again, there are a lot of them because this is seeded data, but then you see we get down to this Zulaf and then we start back at Adams. Perfect. So we should end up seeing like all of these people once we get the data seeded in. We should see all of these people appear and then start seeing our list of attendees. Cool. So I think that's probably working. I'm fairly happy with that. So why don't we now add a button similar to this over here that says like add yourself, something like that. That's then going to launch a modal. Now you can't see it anymore, but when we first launched like just the sign up page for Laramates, the waiting list page, people signed up using a modal. So we had this like call to action flow, and then it pops up a modal. We just ask for some basic information, and then we would reserve someone's username, and that worked pretty well. We got like 450 odd people, I think, on the list from that. So we might do something similar here. It's just a really nice flow. Instead of having the form like inline on the page, we'll just move everything out of the way, bring up a modal when they click on this button, and then we can actually reload the whole page and they'll appear in the list. So cool. So why don't we get that happening now? So I'm just going to close. I think I only want to keep this. So we're going to have this page here. Then we are going to have over on the right of our attendees section, that header, we're going to put a button over there. So again, let's copy this and we're just going to put it here. And then you'll see this isn't quite right. We want it to be over there. So to get that to work, we're going to make this heading section into a flex container. So if we go class equals flex, it'll be flex row by default. We want these to be apart, item center. In case it's on a very small screen, we'll just manually add a gap here. And then now you can see that's over there on the right. So this already is making me think like, okay, we can't use this speaker, this blue treatment here. That's going to conflict. So it's just like, it's too confusing. So we'll come back to that. Let's just get the button working. So to do this, we're going to change this to be an actual button. That means we're not looping through like a bunch of links. I've only copied this over just to get the styling. So now we can, this will no longer be link name. Let's say like add yourself. Cool. I don't actually know that I like this being a blue button. Perhaps this would just be better as maybe like a white button. So let's jump over to Tailwind UI. And we're going to look for some buttons. Here we go, cool. So why don't we try copying that button text, that very last one. Cool. Okay, and we might want to consider adding that type equals button as well, because I think by default it will be a submit button and we are not in a form. Cool. So if we paste that in, yeah, maybe we want to like tweak it a little, but it's not bad. Okay, so you can see that now this like arrow thing that we had over here has stopped working. I don't think we actually want to add the arrow back in regardless, but let me just check. Cool. But I do want to add an icon here, like a plus symbol maybe on the left. So to get that to work, we just need to come over to here and make this an inline flex. There we go. And you can see now it's put it next to each other. For this, I normally go like a gap x 1.5, and that just adds a bit of room. And now we're going to get rid of this and instead use a plus icon, which we will define in a sec. So let's get that plus icon. So to do that, we're just going to import plus icon. I don't know if it will be solid. Heroicons plus, I think it will be this outline. Nice and big. I forget, they used to give advice on like when you should use, what you should use. Let's just go check the Tailwind UI source, because they'll have info in here about using another icon. Okay, so it is from the solid one. That's what you should use. And you can see this is like where I've learnt this, how to put an icon in a button. It's from here, from Tailwind UI. Cool. So yeah, we're going to go inline flex item center. For their large buttons, they are using a gap of gap x2. Cool. So we might adopt that. Oh, no, that's not it. Here. Cool. Gap x2, and we want to make these centered. Perfect. So our plus icon would come from view solid. Sorry, this one. Yep, view 20 solid, and then they're actually doing, we want it beforehand. Perfect. So this is adding a little negative left margin to kind of push it over to the left a bit more, and then setting the height and width at 5. Cool. So that looks decent. So let's bring that back out. I think we will definitely change this to just be like a white banner. I think it looks a white badge. It looks a bit funny being all of these being blue. So let's do that now, and then we'll get the modal working, just so we can see what the whole page is going to look like. So this no longer needs to be a gradient. We're just going to make it BG white. Make this gray 900. There we go. Yeah, cool. So this kind of just makes this like nice monochromatic. Again, we won't have so many speakers, so it won't look as funny. And then that kind of blends in nicely with this section down the bottom, the footer. Cool. All right, and it really draws then your attention, hopefully, over to here, which is like, again, when I've mentioned this in previous streams, we're not trying to like steal the attention from the actual conference website. This is more just like a community effort to get a list of attendees on there and hope that like you can interact with these people. You can go and find Joelle at the conference, you know, if you're interested in speaking with them about, you know, what's Chile like in this case. Cool. So let's get a modal. All right. So we should be able to get rid of that. Let's go see if I still have any of the code from the, I think it was from the call to action. I can see we do have the sign up modal, so that is awesome. How did this page work? So I'd love to not have to reinvent it. So here we have our sign up modal, which we're definitely going to pull from. If I just make this bigger, you can see this is using like a bunch of headless UI stuff. We've got, yeah, the dialogue here, which is effectively a modal, and then this transition stuff for view to make it really nice, pops up for us. This has a form, and then we go off and we submit to this endpoint. So we'll look at changing how all of that works when we copy it out. I just want to see. If there's anything that references this sign up modal still. Sign up modal. Nothing. Okay, so we don't have a reference for how that works, but if I know my projects, it should just be a matter of setting this open prop to true. So we just manage that open state in the parent component, which will be our show.view up here, and then everything else is handed off to the sign up modal to manage itself. Well, in this case, it'll be the add attendee modal, something like that. So do we have any examples of using like sub-components in here? We do. Okay, so perhaps instead of this being inside of the components directory, generally, which I'm kind of using as like, hey, these are reusable components. What I might do is just put this in under pages here and go components. And then I'm just going to copy this sign up modal. We're going to put that here, and we're going to go add attendee modal. Cool. So this has broken some of our imports. I think, how does this work? I think that should work. IDE clearly isn't doing everything it's meant to. Cool. So let's get our form set up so that we've just got our data there. So we want to go city ID, that will be null, and a URL. And then we'll figure out photo uploads in a bit. Okay. So I don't think we need any computed stuff at this stage. We will want to send this off to something like being RESTful. We will make this an API endpoint. Yep, an API .events.attendees.store. So we'll build that out. And then I don't think we need to do any Fathom stuff here. So let's just go log success. And then we'll use that to like tell the parent page, hey, there's a new attendee. Why don't you just reload the whole page? So we'll deal with that. Cool. So I don't know what these are. Let's get rid of those. Cool. All right. So how we actually get this modal on the page is by managing the state here. So what we need is a new data item. And we're going to go is modal. So I generally like to be really specific and go is add attendee modal open. And that will be false by default. So now we should be able to go here and go add attendee modal open equals open. And that should be this. Cool. So that's there. Now if we add an event listener to this add yourself, if we go at click, then we can go is attendee equals true. So now let's see if we get any errors with this. Perfect. Cool. So we do get some errors. That's okay. We haven't done any changes to this, but here, this kind of gives you an idea of what the sign up modal looked like. Kind of looked like this. It had some options down the bottom, which we got rid of from the computed section. Cool. So you can see I can't actually close this as well. So we can get that to work by here, listening for the at close event. So we fire this from inside of the modal to tell the parent, hey, I'm no longer, like the user no longer wants this to be open. So then we need to respect that by setting back our is it add attendee modal open back to false if we get the close event. So we can do that by going here is add equals false. So now I should be able to click that. Perfect. So it's going to open, it's going to close. That should work on cancel as well. And then we haven't actually built this out to submit yet, but you can see hopefully how it's all going to work. Cool. So yeah, let's get this working. So let's now just change this wording here. So I'm going to get rid of that so we can see how the page looks. I don't think this icon is really appropriate for this instance. So we might go and look, like, to my mind, a calendar comes to mind. So maybe even this one, calendar days. So what if we did calendar days icon? Too many tabs. I'll bring that over here. Cool. So I don't think we need to rotate this. We only set all of that stuff so that we can have two icons sitting there in the middle. But let me show you. If we just go like that, how does that look? So let's import the right icon from there. Cool. Okay. So I think I might actually just prefer it without the days. Again, it's just all about experimenting with it. Yeah, I think that's a bit simpler. Cool. So this feels quite large. Maybe 7. Yeah, let's go with 7. And don't be afraid to use random like random-ish numbers, you know, that don't nicely align to 2 or 4 or 8 or whatever. That's totally fine. Cool. So let's adjust the copy now. So we're going to go add yourself as an attendee to Laracon US 2024. And we will come back and fill that in so that it works dynamically. So to get you on the attendee list, this still works. This text totally still works. So we will have first name. We've got some error handling stuff here in case the API, the endpoint returns back that, hey, no, you haven't provided your first name or whatever. So first name, last name. We won't need a handle. All we need is the city and a URL. And the URL is optional, but hopefully people will fill it in. Let's get rid of this research section, which I think is to there. Yes, nailed it. Cool. So this is going to be a really simple form. So what are we asking people for? City. So let's put city there, and then let's do a URL. So why don't I just change every reference here to be URL. I'll put that on. There we go. Cool. So I don't know if there's like an autocomplete. I think there is for URLs. Let's have a look at that. Mitch Dev. Cool. So let's go HTML5 input autocomplete. Okay, so what are our options? On, off. Yeah, here we go. So this type of stuff. So what we want is a URL. That's the one. Cool. So autocomplete URL is right. The ID is URL. That's fine. That doesn't really matter. It is not required. And the type is just text, because URL is a thing. Wow. Okay. There you go. I didn't know that. I only knew that it autocomplete. Cool. So it's not required. That's fine. And this should not say URL. So this should just say URL to link people to. Cool. You know, Twitter, MySpace, whatever. Cool. Is that funny or not? I don't know. I don't know if that's funny. Nah, that's just not. I don't want to seem like an idiot. Cool. So, right. So we've got first name, last name. I think we just need to get this handle section working. And then, what else might we want to say? No, I think we're all right. So let's adjust these to say adding you to the list. Add yourself to the list. Cool. All right. That's looking good. So we can't submit this yet, because we don't have the backend route set up at all. And then we also need to, how long have I been going for? Almost an hour now. I really want to get this out. So let's try and work fast. So yeah, let's get this cities thing in place. So let's find where we are using the city search thingo. That would be in our search layout. Do we have, yeah, here, criteria. Cool. So criteria collection will have a location criteria here. Cool. That's one way we can do it. Actually, thinking about it, the best way will be from our My Profile page, where you can go and set your city on your, if you have an actual profile. So let's put that in here. This will somewhere have a city. Cool. Location search input. So we come back here. City. Cool. So this will be form city ID. It is required. We don't need a drop down. It's running in the city mode and not the generic search for like countries and states mode. So with any luck, we can get that to work. So let's just copy the location search input component. Cool. Okay, so that's working. So I should now be able to do this. You can see there's a bit of a styling issue because the box is too big. So can we address that? Location search input. What's the sizing on this thing? Okay, I thought I would see like a PY in here somewhere. PY1. No, that's on the results. Okay, so maybe I just need to manually adjust these to be PY2.5. Oh dear, it's not perfect. That's all right. I'm not going to stress it. Can deal with it later. So, okay, so let's make these PY2. It's probably more important to just get this thing out the door. All right. Cool. So now let's build that endpoint. So we're going to come up here. We will add this as an API endpoint. Events. Let's copy here and go attendees controller, I think. Is that how we do it over here? No, just profile controller. Okay, so this should be like that. Cool. So all we need is we will call this store. It will be on an event. Let's do our validation inline. Why not? We can figure that out later. So the things that we're asking for are, this is going to be required. It'll be a string. It'll be a max of 255 and a min of 1, because maybe some people have like a short name. Cool. We'll do the same for last name. What else do we have? City. Okay, city ID, that's required. It'll be an integer and it will exist. So for this, you can actually just pass it the model class, and yes, it will be based on the ID. So they will have to have gotten that ID from our search input thingo. And then URL is not optional, it's sometimes. And then it is a URL. nullable, something like that. Okay, so validated. Let's just DD this out. DD validated. What does that give us? We need to hook this up in our routes file. Sorry, so that's the next step. There's a lot going on here. So routes, API. This is not as neat as I would like, but that's okay. So this is going to be a post here, attendee controller. Yeah, this really should be like a what's that called? What is that called? An API resource. So let's do that. Route API resource events.attendees. Then here's where you can do this, and you go only. It's so hard to type. This microphone in the way. Store, and that's going to automatically name it for us. Cool. So I think that should work. So what does this do? We go A, B, Sydney. Just submit that. Event parameter is required. Cool. Perfect. So now what we need to do is pass to this add attendee modal. We're going to say, hey, pass it our event so that it knows what it is. So here, let's copy this into our props. Oops. And now I can get rid of that hard coding of this. Props.event.name. There we go, that's filled that in. Cool, and then over here, we just need to tell it which event. So we go this.props.slug, I think. So we go A, B, Sydney. Clear all of this crap out. Sorry, I've got to put that at the bottom. Event. So, sorry. Event.slug. There we go. Clear that. A, B, Sydney. Zoom that out. There we go. Okay, cool. So it posted it here. So city ID, we just need to do some formatting of the data here, some transform it. So we will do that. Data, return data, and we'll go city ID, data dot city ID dot ID. So there we go. Okay, A, B, Sydney, submit. Perfect. All right, so that is actually submitting properly, which is awesome. Cool. So we will want to rate limit this, definitely. We also wanted to do the profile photo stuff. I just don't know if we're going to have enough time. This is already, we've been running long. Let's at least get attendees added on the list, and then we'll go from there, right? So let's go event, attendees, create. It's already filling it in for us. So yes, this is why IDE autocomplete is awesome. Yep. And then, yep. Cool. So is there anything else on an attendee that we need to know about? Auto-generating this and the UID as well. Event ID will be automatically filled in. City ID we know is going to be a valid city ID, so that's fine based on our validation rules. first name and last name. Let's check the column lengths for those. They are 255, so that's perfect. We haven't done it yet, but we're automatically going to fill in that anyone that submits through this is an attendee and not a speaker. And then URL, we'll play around a little with that and make sure that we add on if there isn't already a prefix on that URL, we're going to add a prefix to it to say like a scheme, like HTTPS, for example. And then these will be automatically generated. So this is really close. So let's go type equals attendee type attendee. Yes. Cool. So now, what is that URL helper doing? Okay, I wonder if you can submit x.com mitchdav. Aha, okay. So maybe the browser is enforcing that for us. That's pretty cool. Yep, okay, so that actually worked. That's really neat. Let's just go find Laravel validation and just check the URL rule. We just want normal URL. Okay, that sounds amazing. So let's do that. Must be a valid URL. Perfect. All right, cool. Yeah, let's roll with that. So why don't we just return response no content, well, and then go HTTP response. I don't want any of those. What is all of this? Created. Cool. So we're not actually going to return back the attendee because we just want to get the page to reload itself. So, is this firing? Okay, right. So this is happening because we're submitting it through inertia. It's expecting an inertia response. So, yeah, that makes sense. Bummer. I do want this to be managed through a form. Okay, so this makes me think, right, this should not be in an API endpoint. This should be down here inside of our web controllers. So if I bring that down to here, okay, let's get rid of that. So now this, where's this getting referenced? Cool, so let's bring that out. And instead, we're going to put it in our web directory. Public events. Perfect. Cool. So it's a resource, events.attendees. Looks like we're already pulling this in. Web controllers, public events, and then only the store method. Cool. Okay. So that's done. So let's just reload this page. What would we want this to return? Maybe this should just go back. Redirect back. Maybe that's the move. Okay, so if we go A, B, Sydney, just gonna leave that. Cool, we get a success. Awesome. So now let's hook into that success event here, and we can go this emit added. So if we emit that, event, then now come back to here, we can go on added. I just want to reload the page. So refresh page. So we're just going to make that a method down here. Methods, function, window dot location dot reload. Cool. All right. So let's add ourselves again. A, B. What happens if we submit that? Nothing. So this isn't showing our validation, which it should. Let's get that working. City ID field is required. Okay, so let's just change that. City. Then in our modal. Sorry, I couldn't skip this. Every time I say this word, my machine, my Apple thing over there fires up. So it's a bad word to be trying to stream around. Cool. So let's change this thing. Aha, that's why. So let's just change this to be that word, that magic word that old mate seems to pick up. So we go A, let's just submit that. B, perfect, cool. So it's required, very nice. And then x.com, have to enter a valid URL. B, x.com. That worked, cool. Okay, so there should be a bunch of ABs somewhere near the top. Yeah, there we go. Very nice. Okay, that's working. So, what else do we need to do to get this live? Need a drink of water, that's for sure. Hey Len, sorry, I didn't see this. How you going? Good to have you on. Wow, I can see we've got quite a few people. So hello, if you're watching me on any of these platforms, it's good to have you along. I hope that if you're going to Laracon US, you'll jump on this, because it'll kind of suck if nobody gets on it. But anyway, it's a bit of fun. Cool, so I think that means that now we should have a list of people coming from Sydney. Let's find Sydney. There we go. We do. Awesome. Okay, and then if I click on that, that actually currently takes me to our list of developers from this thing, which I'm okay with that for now. The ideal would be that instead this filters down like a list of it. Like you click on that, it scrolls you down and adds like a filter for the Sydney people, but that's okay. I don't actually know if we're going to be able to get this thing out. But anyway, you can at least add yourself now. I wonder if we could get this live. What would we need to do? Because I've got a hard out in half an hour. Okay. Maybe we do that part tomorrow. So if we were to call it now, what would we do tomorrow to get this out? You can already add yourself, so that's great. We will add some rate limiting. So why don't we just jot these in as comments? So to do add rate limiting. We will add rate limiting. We will add profile photos, which we also need to add in the attendee modal thing and figure that out, because like you won't yet have like an ID to attach that image to. So that's going to be interesting. Then what else? I would like to style the connections for speakers differently. So that way it's like really clear where all your speakers are coming from. Because there's a pretty good chance that like you'll have international speakers, definitely at Laracon. So that'll be really cool to be able to see that. Yeah. I think that will probably do it. Because I know like we could add more moderation and things like that, but this would, I can just monitor this at least initially, and just see, okay, is anyone adding anything stupid that they shouldn't? So yeah, we might just leave it there. That's a good, this seems to be about average for our stream lengths, a bit over an hour. So back to the camera. Hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, I'd love if you would subscribe to the YouTube channel. We have 5 subscribers. It's very exciting. I check it every day. I'm kidding. But it is nice to see. So if you like what I'm doing, yeah, I'd love if that's like the one spot I'd really like to start sending people to. Share it out there, and just let me know. Just write me a comment or something on Twitter or on YouTube, wherever, however you want to reach me, and just say, hey, enjoying what you're doing. It's cool. Really appreciate it. So I'll leave it there. I will do my very best to get this thing out the door tomorrow, because we're coming up on a week to Laracon US. So I'd love to have, even 100 people on there by the time Laracon US kicks off in a week. So awesome. This has been really fun.